Director Miller, will you lead us in prayer?
Bow your heads and pray with me. Lord, we come to you this evening asking you to bless us, bless our lives, help us as board members to make decisions that are in the best interest of the members that we serve. We ask that you watch over and protect our military men and women, our first responders, all of our healthcare workers that are working to keep us healthy and safe and free in this world we live in today. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Director Campbell, Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. We do have a quorum. Audio and video recorders are in use. If you would like to speak on an agenda item, please sign up at the sign-up sheet right back there at the door. All right, first order of business is the approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Move to approve as submitted.
Second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Approval of the memberships. So in March, in May, we had 290 new memberships, 277 canceled members, and 2 transfers. Do I have a motion to approve the memberships as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the members as presented.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion passes. No unfinished business. On to new business. So employee recognition, Dr. Peavy.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am so proud to work here with the wonderful people who get the water out of the ground, get it to your house or establishment, and then get it out of your house or establishment to the wastewater treatment plant, and then treat it so that it's safe for the environment. I'm so proud to be here. And each month we're recognizing a different functional area. This month we're recognizing the sewer operations team. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mark Turner. He is the director of that department.
Mr. President, Board of Directors, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Mark Turner. I'm the Director of Electrical SCADA Department and the Wastewater Collections Department. And what I've been asked to do, and I noticed in my notes it says a brief description. I don't know if that was Dr. Peavy that put that or what, because that was it. But I'm also proud to be here, and I'm excited about what we're able to do here. And this department that we're going to introduce you tonight is I believe, is where the rubber meets the road. We have 2 missions here at Holland of our water system, and that's to give water to our customers, clean water, and to get our wastewater to the right place, okay, at a good time too. And the the wastewater collections team that I'm going to introduce to you tonight are those people that do that. And there's a slight number here, and believe it or not, we have 100 attendants. The entire department is here, except one that is ill, correct? Yes. And you're going, the process, what this department does is they're involved in maintaining the lift stations, of which we have 87 right now. They also, they do the testing for the H2S gas and the treatment for that H2S gases. They do videos of the sewer lines, of the distribution system. They are very active in the I&I inflow and infiltration project that we're now working on. They're pumping out manholes, they're pumping out lift stations. They maintain the grinders that Holly Navarre still owns. And they repair sewer leaks, they repair sewer clogs. Matter of fact, they just finished repairing one about 4 o'clock this afternoon, another leak. Respond to customer service orders during normal work hours, and they participate in the after-hour calls. They do all of this, and I'm going to ask all the crew to come up right now. This number of people is what's in the department. First time tomorrow, good Lord willing, everybody shows up. We have hired 4 new people. It's first time that I know of in 5 years that we've been fully staffed. So I want to thank the HR department. It's just been fabulous. I'm really excited about it. I was doing the new employee package before we came, and this is going to be a good ride. We're going to have a good time. On your, buddy, Jeff, come over here if you would, please. He's behind us. Seth and Buddy is the supervisor of the water tap and sewer tap department. And Seth is his right-hand man, okay? Trudy is she is now going to be our camera tech. We're going to be videoing and archiving all of the distribution sewer system in our company. Justin Moxley is his name. We call him Mox. Mox the Ox. And he's the supervisor of the wastewater collections team. And Robert Avett, he's our newest addition to the group. It's just been a blast. He's just came and filled all of the shoes. But all of those things that I just listed and told you what we do, these are the people that do it. And I'm proud of them, proud to be a part of it, and proud of what we're going to do in the next few months. Ms. Melissa, my list said you're taking over.
Yes, thank you, Mark. I'm going to ask Dr. Peavy if he'd like to say a few things about our first responders, and I forgot to mention that earlier, because these folks are truly first responders. Rain or shine, 24/7, these folks are on the job.
Mark's has pretty much said it all. What I want to say about this group is, you heard me say it last month, is that every day, 24 hours a day, these folks make sure when you flush your toilet, it's gone. Goes to the plant, and then these gentlemen take care of it to make sure that it's processed and goes to the plant. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not something that anybody wants to deal with, but these folks deal with it day in and day out. And it's not just a hardship, it's the long hours, the weekends, the holidays. These folks deserve our thanks. I will say that they have been recognized, and we're going to call out 3 of them specifically because they were recognized by you, the public. We actually got emails, we got phone calls and customer service, and I received emails and phone calls congratulating these 3 specific folks for what they did. Friday afternoon, a line broke. Who was the first one to respond? These folks. They were there, they did the repairs, pictures were taken, videos were taken, and they were sent to us. I've seen them do it on holidays. I've seen it back in January when the weather was cold and it was raining. I saw it last weekend when Fairpoint had a pump that went down because the well was out, because the line had burst. These folks responded as well. So from my standpoint, I want to call out these 3. Robert, step forward. Mr. Moxley, step forward. And Mr. Buddy, step forward. These 3 gentlemen specifically responded to both of those calls. I think we ought to give them a hand because we have a little something for them, but we want to recognize them specifically because of the response and the crowd and the public acknowledging that. So thank you. Mr. Kennedy.
Yes, sir. Robert. Thank you, sir. Appreciate everything. Buddy? Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Justin? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you as well, thank you. And
Seth and Ms. Trudy.
Ms. Trudy, thank you so much. Again, it brings us, the directors, joy to know how hard they work. And I will give you guys an example. My wife is on the web, she's following the Facebook and everything. She's the one who sent me a post. Well, the Okaloosa Gas hit another sewer system again. And big thanks out to Holly Bar Water System because you guys were out there fixing that stuff right off the bat. Didn't expect that. So, again, thank you for your commitment, your dedication, your professionalism. You are the face, you are the first responders, and we can't be more proud of you. So, thank you so much. Hey, hang on.
Gentlemen,
Right over here.
we want to take a know, I'd like to ask the board to come down. No? There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people.
No. You got a picture full right there, boss.
Scooting over here.
A lot of people.
Yeah, I say, should I come around front? You say, I can come around front.
Debbie, you know that well, don't you? All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. For everything you did. I need a new coffee cup. I'll run it by you. All right. Okay. On to finance. Miss Ashley? Do you need to, yes, Miss Ashley, do you need to prep anything? You want to go over?
I was going to discuss the CIP loan proposal.
Okay, that'll be the next thing.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
next.
Yep.
I don't really have anything.
Okay. So, do you wish to say anything,
Well,
Dr.
what I
Bailey?
would say is the committee, the subcommittee budget from the finance group met yesterday. We will do budgets year to date, both for the month of May. We would ask that you're, as the subcommittee leader, to go ahead and give your update on that committee, and then have the board take action on this.
Sure. So Director Thiel and I met with staff yesterday to go over the budget. Some things of note would be revenue sales. Revenue water sales are down a little bit, but we're expecting that to pick up because of the heat wave. So we should see revenue on the water sales to go up. Year to date, general and administrative expenses are 3.4% under budget. Total water expenses are 3.7% under budget, and total wastewater expenses are 1.7 under budget. So overall, nothing was standing out on the budget to actuals. Director Thiel, do you have anything to add? All right. Does anybody else have questions on the financials?
I do. I was looking at the month of May financials, and there's one expense that jumped out, and I know it's something we're dealing with that's an increase in cost, but it's the net periodic pension cost. The prior month it was a little over 100,000, and this month it was 250,000. The first 4 months of the year, I think it was 250,000, and this month it was 250. So is there a reason why it was so much higher this month?
Absolutely. There was an adjustment that
We did an adjustment because what was actually in the budget initially was the contribution payment for the year, not the cost incurred for the pension for
services
the
cost.
year. So what is included in the new number is the service cost, the interest, which is the account for the time value of money, and the amortization on the losses that have been incurred on the plan. And it's particularly large this month because I had to go back and make up for the underreporting for the prior 4 months. Going forward, it'll be like $111,000 a month.
Okay. Thank you. I figured there was a good reason, so.
Typically, just so that we may have this on the record, is that the adjustments in the past were always done in the month of December. As they rolled it up for the full year, then they would take it out at the end of the year time, instead of doing as we're doing it on a monthly basis.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Thank you, sir. Any further questions? All right. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the May 2021 financial statements.
Motion to approve financial statements for May 2021 as presented.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Unrestricted CIP loan proposal. Ms. Ashley.
We received 2 proposals for the unrestricted funds. We requested $2.1 million because that is what was approved in the budget. It's 60% of the total unrestricted budget that we were going to borrow. One of the proposals, actually a bond issue, we only received one proposal for standard financing. And with this dollar amount, it just doesn't justify the costs and time associated with a bond issue, I don't think. And the service first option is only 1 basis point above prime, and the closing costs are capped at 25. We can prepay with no penalty. So if we want to roll it into a larger bond issue later, we can. So I think that it's the best option right now.
Okay.
And, Mr. President and board members, this was something that was approved preliminary back in December of last year, as well as in January, when the budgets were approved, the CIP budget, the projects and the amount for those projects, and this effort was approved by the board back in January.
So your recommendation is the service first proposal?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the unrestricted loan proposal for the unrestricted financing.
Okay. All right. Ms. Cave, second.
Can you specify in the motion that that's with service first?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll amend it to make sure that it's just service first as recommended by the CFO.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like to resecond that? All right.
I have a question from the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. Name and address, and you know the drill.
Yes, Carmen Reynolds Navarre. Just for clarification, could you review what that loan is for? I come to all the meetings, but I guess I've had an Alzheimer's moment. Thank you.
Yes, it's for a list of projects that the board approved that need to get done in the next 2 to 3 years. There were capital projects to improve either the system or do repairs or replacement.
Thank you. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Carmen Reynolds. Is that list of projects available somewhere?
Yes, ma'am. It's there every month. It's listed every month
Listed where?
in the financials.
Okay. How do,
If you would like a copy, just submit it. A request, we'll be glad to provide it.
okay. On the website, there's no place to really request, so I send an email to the water system?
Submit a written request to myself or the board, and we'll respond.
Okay, thank you. And what I'm specifically asking for are the projects involved in the CIP financing proposal?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. Any further questions? All right. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Odor control chemical update, Mr. Turner.
Yes, Mr. President, back before the meeting, Mr. Director Campbell instructed to toot our horn a little bit, so I'm going to
Toot loudly.
toot loudly. Okay. When I took over the wastewater collections, we were at that, in 2020, we spent a little over $31,000 in odor control. It was a chemical that was injected into the system. But anyhow, when we did the testing, we realized that the H2S gas is really our enemy. It destroys the equipment in the field. It damages especially the electrical. And we knew we had to do something more. So we did an assessment, and we realized that we needed to double the coverage. So the cost came back, I remember, was $62,133 to increase it. I knew that Dr. Peavy would choke on that, so we started looking, and we looked for about 2-3 months, and we found a company called KPIX, and they use a all-natural product that is, it's natural. Matter of fact, the salesman, he would stick his hand in it and eat it. So I've never done that, so I can't. Anyhow, we were proud of the system. I'm proud of the product. We went ahead and took a step further from just eliminating gas, and we decided to do something that would clean the fat oil and greases off the distribution pipe system and pumps and wells. And we did our initial installation on March 18th, And we did the second administration of it on March 25th. And at that time, Chris Legg, the wastewater treatment plant manager, contacted me and said he's seeing some issues at the plant. We did some research. We found out it was what was causing it was a titanium dioxide in the compound. And so we had the company, they decreased the titanium dioxide in it. We tried it again. We still had the same effect. So we had about a month lapse there. And we finally, after 2 different tries, went down to a product that's called Boost RX. And it is a carbon compound. It's all natural. And we're having good results. We just finished our second application of it. We really expect to see a lot better results, but the results are a fraction of what they were when we started it. So we're really confident. We've had no effect at the wastewater treatment plant. So I think we found something that has worked. There's a lot more that I could tell you on it. The cost of the Boost RX is about 30% less than the AKCBX. So we've even saved on that. So far, year to date, that I received yesterday, we spent $4,790 on odor control. This time last year, we had spent $14,300. So we're excited about it. Another effect of it is too, I don't have to have equipment. We don't have to monitor pumps like we were before. This product we simply give to the techs and say, on this date, I want you to put this here. And we're excited about it. How's that, Mr. Kennedy?
Well, and the other effect is instead of getting the complaints about the Coral lift station, which normally happens about this time, there was one and it was a false alarm from something on the other side. So obviously, if you're not getting it, and that's why I wanted them to, hey, that's what you're not seeing. You're not seeing the negative effect, and because there's a positive there, nobody's reaching out and saying. So I wanted to say, great job on the research and pushing forward that, and looking for new devices. So appreciate that.
And we really appreciate you saving the members money.
That's
so,
it.
Thank you for solving the problem and doing it effectively. So thank you, sir. Any other comments from the board? All right. Corrective action, board action. So on June 1st, the board voted to appoint 2 new candidates to the board, and the count was incorrect. And that's completely my responsibility. I should have wound up having a double validation on the account, right? Lesson learned. I promise you that will never happen again. The board had found the error. We fixed the error. And so what I wanted to do was to congratulate Director Cave and Director Linnell over down there as our sitting board members. I want to thank them as well for, they are away from their family to be up here to serve as community leaders. And so thank you for your commitment, thank you for your time, and we look forward to the next few months together.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
You need a motion to make that correct, Will?
No, so you took care of that at your
Yes, sir.
special meeting.
name and address, or is it just a comment?
Is this a time that I can ask a question on the appointments, or should I wait till the end?
No, sir. No, let's just wait to the end. Since
Wait till the end.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Finance committee updates, and that will be Mr. Steele.
I don't have anything from the Finance Committee specifically because it was all covered in the budget and nobody had any questions on that. But I'll allow each of the subcommittees to see if they have anything to update. For the Eglin Project Subcommittee, Director Campbell, do you have anything?
Just a quick update. On June 4th, we had a regional reuse project meeting. We had Northwest Florida Water Management District, Santa Rosa County, Gulf Breeze was here, the Engineering Liberty Group, and DEP was here as well. And I think part of the group, I think it was DEP, said they've never seen that many different agencies working together with not being behind. So it's flowing, it's on project, thanks to Phil and Clinton and his folks for pushing that. So no surprises, we're on track, we're ready to get rolling, and just working on some easement stuff, and then we're ready to start construction in August, I believe, on that. So that's for that.
Okay, thank you, Director Campbell. Capital improvements, you're also in charge of that.
Right, you saw the CIP for the unrestricted, right? We're still looking for some money for restricted improvements, which will come at a later date. But again, meet monthly with the staff and the committee, and I think we're going to move that to mid-July, so we have the financials from June, so we can move forward with those. So. And if one of the new directors wants to sit in on that, as long as we don't have a quorum, you're more than welcome to sit and get those project lists. And you have, I believe, the project list there in your packet. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Director Campbell. Director Miller, bonds?
No update on that. We're not at the point where we're looking at a bond issue yet, but that
Okay,
may come.
President Kennedy and the Budget Subcommittee, you have anything other than what you've already discussed?
No, sir.
Okay, that concludes it.
All right, thank you.
And I ask a
Yes, ma'am, go right ahead. Miss Debbie.
Debbie Gano, Navarre. Is the Holly Navarre water system carrying any unfunded pension liabilities at this time?
Define unfunded, I guess is the question. We have a pension plan, yes.
Yes, is that covering all current and future pension liabilities?
No.
No, sir. I mean, no.
So what would be the shortfall that we have?
Well, I mean, I couldn't tell you the number right now, but I would ask you, so instead of having, I mean, because you would want to know a real number here. So
Right.
I would feel comfortable.
And I'm not expecting an answer at this point in
Yes.
time, but I would like to get an answer to that.
And if you could send an email to.
Yes, if you direct me to whatever the.
Okay, sir, I'm sorry, I haven't been to a meeting in quite a while, so if you could tell me who you are and your name.
Dr. Dallas Peavy, Chief Executive Officer, Holly Navarre Water.
And your email,
D. Peavy.
and is that P-E-A-V-Y or V-E-Y? I'm sorry?
V-E-Y.
V-E-Y, okay. Okay, at HNWS.
-FL.com.
Thank you. Just to follow along with that, when was the last time that a forensic audit has been done with Holly Navarre water system?
Oh, we've never had one, but, you know, Averett,
Warren Averett.
Warren Averett, we have a audit done every year. It's not a forensic audit, you know, it's not something that Gulf Breeze wound up going through with gloves and everything. It is a solid.
Yeah,
reputable-
I know what those audits are.
Yes.
I've seen the results of those audits in the past. Has a forensic audit ever been considered? I think it would be a good thing if we've never had one done on the water system. I think it would be a good thing, and I, as a member of the cooperative, think that one should be required. How long has this water system been around? Quite a few years, correct? And we've never had one done?
Yeah, so since I made that gentleman wait, it's not on the agenda item. About
Well,
the finance
I was
committee,
in
so-
on the budget. That's why I'm up here.
Very good, all right, fair enough.
It was an agenda item
Yes,
that I'm
ma'am.
asking about.
You're on. I mean, no, I don't believe there is a reason for a forensic audit unless we're looking for something. I mean, right now, we have an auditor that this board and the audit itself is also published and provided to the members to look over them, to see, you know, what your money's going to. So a forensic audit.
Yeah, I think a forensic audit digs deeper. It's not just, you know, this is the difference between this year and last year, and, you know, and it just kind of goes through. I think a forensic audit is one that the members would like to see.
My suggestion would be if she or the public has some kind of knowledge that they'd like to share that is driving them toward that, that's fine, so that we have that. We haven't had any indication from either the audits of the last 5 years to indicate that there would be any need for a forensic audit, but if the board said do it, absolutely we would do it. But if she has specific information she'd like to share that would drive us toward that, absolutely.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything like a specific thing, but, you know, just things over the past years with the golf course, with, the pension funds, just things like that, kind of raise a few questions here and there, where just to have a forensic audit, maybe make it a requirement that one gets done every 10 years or one gets done every 15 years, just as a backup to make sure that things aren't falling through the cracks. That's my recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Gannon.
I'd just like to say there is a cost involved with a forensic audit, and it is not cheap to do, so we'd be looking at spending our members' money on doing that. As a board member, I've got to balance the benefit versus the cost of that, and if we're having a regular audit that's coming to the board that's saying they're not seeing anything that's out of the ordinary, that all of the income and expense numbers are in line and where they need to be, I've got to ask myself, is it worth spending that money to do a forensic audit if there's no indications that there's, anything awry with our finances? And then regarding the pension fund, it's no secret that we have a pension obligation, and we have financial advisors and requirements that the law says you have to put this much money in your pension to fund it every year. And it's no secret that we're looking at, an aging workforce and pension obligations that will be increasing over the next few years. They are fully funded as required to date, but there will be some requirements for some higher pension contributions over the years as far as what is projected to us. So, but we do stay on top of that. I was on the pension committee and met with our financial advisor who handles that for us.
Dr. Petey, you have something?
Yes, for everybody's knowledge, the reason we brought this director of finance on was because that's her expertise, is to ensure the integrity of the financial system at Holly Navarre. We've not had that before. We have that now. That's what we brought this on.
Yeah, Miss Ashley, just raise your hand so that everybody knows she's our go-to.
Let me just,
All the more reason, start her off on a fresh page, that she knows everything behind her is up to date and accurate and complete, so that she starts off with a good count. Another reason why a forensic audit could be useful.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. We are on to engineering.
How about we start with the monthly operations report? A little bit of I&I. Obviously popped up again with all the rain. A little under 100,000 gallons per day last month. Running about 57,000 gallons a day year to date. And if anybody's got any questions about the other 10 pages Corey produces there, I'd be happy to entertain them, but that's the most important part. Master booster pump station and ground storage tank. The property owner or developer had a few more concerns that we have addressed. Those comments have gone back to the developer. I don't think anybody expects that there's any big deal to getting that agreement to be able to be signed soon. And in case everyone forgets, that's the other big project besides Eglin. We tend to talk way more about Eglin than that project, but it is critical for us to be able to put the Fairpoint water that we receive, which is the vast majority of the water that the members use, into our system at adequate pressure. So that's part of the capital improvement plan. It's the other big project. We just tend not to talk about it so much because Eglin gets all the focus. And like Paul Harvey said, the rest of the story, that to Joe's comments, we expect the 90% Eglin plans to be delivered sometime this week to us. They were going to deliver them late last week, and we found a little issue with one of the directional drills that needed to be addressed. It lengthened the project, changed all the stationing. We prefer that they fix that before we get that for use for exhibits, for easements and permitting. So they will deliver that sometime this week, is what they've told us, Friday or before. Update on the lease, as y'all know, at one time, we thought we had an executed lease. The county had executed the lease, but there really wasn't an executed lease because the feds had not done so. They preferred a minor change to the language because of an executive order that was issued. We, as of this moment, don't have an update on that, but we have no reason to suspect that the July timeframe that they gave us won't be met. We're attempting to contact the property guys to see if that's on course. But all of the conversation with the county and with Jacobs would not indicate that there was any issue there. But I do mention that again. With the 90% plans, we will actually begin to permit the parts of the project that have not been permitted to date. The biggest portion of the project, the lengthiest process will be the ERB process to permit the impact on the wetlands that the project has. They're pretty minimal, but it still requires a permit. So we will soft submit that to DEP while we work on the easements to get their comments on that before we officially submit it for permit. We've got a pre-app with DOT here in about 2 weeks. The county right-of-way permit, Jacobs is having a meeting with the county to discuss those issues. The RIBS permit, as you may know, the RIBS were actually already permitted years ago when the lease was approximately 200 acres. When the lease was reduced to 160 acres, a revision was submitted. DEP has been passing that back and forth with Jacobs and Santa Rosa County. They are actually the permittee on that. We had a conversation with DEP earlier today, Clinton and I did, and as a side, asked them when we could expect that draft permit to be issued, and they indicated the 1st of July. So that seems to be going well. The 90% plans that get submitted are essentially the final plans. They will morph from 90% to 100% as all of these other issues are taken care of and completed. The biggest issue, again, of course, is the 15 easements that we need to get. We're working on those. I believe I've already reported to everyone that the county has agreed to cooperate in acquiring those easements. So we will get the language the way we want it, then we will provide it to the county for their input to see if they prefer changes, modifications. The plan currently is we will begin approaching some of those folks that are known to Holly Bar probably next week or the week after that, and then we will just begin working through those easements as quickly as we can. Joe said construction in August. That's a little optimistic, I think. We want to be under construction by the end of the year. And right now, we seem to be on schedule. So as soon as I say that, something always happens, but that's where we are. Any questions with regard to ag?
I'm an optimistic guy, Phil. I'll know you.
Yeah.
No questions regard to Eglin, but what is the timeline on the current timeline on the booster station? Just ballpark or rough?
So we've got a little more time on that, Mark. The design and permitting of that is not near as critical as Eglin. We actually don't have the design beginning on that until almost the end of the year. The critical path for everything, of course, with the exception of the deadline of when we thought we might have a capacity issue if the I&I stayed at the level that it was for some time, was the first quarter or the end of 2022, first quarter of 2023. That project, Mark, is due to be completed prior to the completion of the Eglin and start design sometime around the end of the year, as well as all of the other projects that are in that capital improvement program.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Eglin, name and address. 3 minutes.
Let me get my big notes out. Susie Kennedy, Cowboy Beach Drive. Oh, that's I'm just confused about Eglin, and so I have a question I want to get answered. And part of it's because I keep hearing different stories about where the effluent's going to be going or not going. So recently I've read a lot of social media, including from some previous boards, that once we get Eglin, we won't be needing to spray on Hidden Creek. But I've come to meetings and I've heard we're going to continue to spray on Hidden Creek because it's advantageous cost-wise and so forth. So could someone please straighten me out and some of the other people in the public that keep reading from a previous board members that we don't need Hidden Creek for effluent, or do we?
You want me to address that from the
Yes, sir.
engineering standpoint
Yes, from
first?
the engineering standpoint.
From the engineering standpoint, Holly Bar began to master plan for their long-term disposal needs, gosh, back in the early 90s. It was determined then that there was kind of a build-out connection for Holly Navarre of about 30,000 units. Those units are not all equal, but when we get into the total number of connections, that's how we consider it. Over time, from that time period to today, the water demand and thus the sewer flow has been somewhere between 165 gallons a day per connection to right now it's about 183 gallons per day per connection. So the long-term required capacity for Holly Navarre water system has varied between about 4.5 million gallons a day and a little under 5 million gallons per day. And that has been consistent over that time period. That ultimate number is the reason why the 3 MGD was requested back in the early 2000s when Holly Navarre agreed to be part of that project, the Eglin project. The rest was always intended to be met by the capacity that exists here with the existing systems. That's the engineering answer to your question. So yes, it's always been contemplated that Holly Navarre had purchased the right to spray on that golf course, and then this was, of course, before Holly Navarre bought the golf course. It was always contemplated, because Holly Navarre had the right to do that, they had bought that right, that they would always have that capacity there. That's the engineering answer to your question.
Then,
The planning question, the planning answer to your
okay.
question. I guess.
So do I go away here saying that you're going to continue to spray effluent on Hidden Creek or not?
Well, that's an operations decision, but yeah, I think the golf course would look pretty bad if you didn't continue to spray.
But also the Greskovitz rib and the Holly by the Sea ponds also take some of the, a part of that whole thing. It's not just the spray thing.
Yes.
And the rec center. So
Yes.
that's all part of what Chris managed. He educated me this a little earlier about maximum capacity, and that's why it's spread out like that.
So if I come across any more misinformation, I send them to you?
It's not it's disinformation.
Disinformation.
It's purposely misleading.
Oh,
As opposed to misinformation where I think I've got my facts wrong. It's-
well, I think I'm wrong.
And-
I'm confused.
And I think to put a pin in this, Ms. Kennedy, it is the course, the land that we have already permitted is not going to go away. It is built into the master plan, and it will be part of our capacity as far as we know for the future, because we already have it.
We paid for it, why would we not utilize that capacity?
Yes, sir.
And to transfer that capacity up to Eglin would cost us additional money. We're only reserving a certain portion of the total capacity that the Eglin ribs will have, and we've reserved that, and we've got that factored into what we're paying. If we're going to get rid of the golf course, we're going to have to pay to reserve additional capacity at Eglin to replace it, which is going to cost us money. Why would we spend that kind of money to move the effluent disposal somewhere else when we already have the infrastructure in place to put it on the golf course.
And that's what I heard before.
Yes.
It's just, I feel like Columbo, and I
No, I
get
know.
confused by
Yeah, but
some of
that's,
the people.
it only makes sense to continue to operate that because the money's already been spent, the infrastructure's in place, and to spend money and I'm talking about not just this board, but future boards.
Right.
They'd have to make that decision. We're going to spend money to send it up there so that we can close the golf course. It just doesn't make sense to do it.
Are you done, ma'am?
Yes, I'm done. That was
Okay.
Eglin.
Ms. Carmen?
Are we still in engineering?
Is this still an engineering question?
It is Carmen Reynolds Navarre. So to clarify the second part of Ms. Kennedy's question, will the Williams Creek ribs, what you call that Grisovich site, still exist when all that Eglin project is completed? So we will still be putting effluent into the sound by way of the Williams Creek ribs. Now that goes into the sound.
Is my engineer saying that? I don't know. It goes to the ribs?
I don't know how to answer that. That's a permitted disposal facility.
I thought the county was trying to get all that effluent out of the sound. I worked very hard on a parallel project with that.
Well, obviously, it doesn't go directly into the sound. It goes through the bottom of the ribs into the groundwater.
Ms. Carmen?
But again,
Okay, never
Are you
mind.
talking about the Navarre Beach
No.
disposing in the sound?
Yes, the Williams Creek dissipates and eventually works its way through the marsh grasses and ends up indirectly in the sound.
Well, we will not, I mean, Greskovich is a permitted
And it's a permanent, is what I'm hearing. Okay, thank you for
It's
that.
part of our capacity.
And it was just inspected.
Yes,
Thank you.
Williams Creek flows all through Second Edition and out into the sound. The ribs, while they're in fairly close proximity to Williams Creek, they don't disperse into the creek. They go disperse down into the groundwater there. So it's not. I don't think it's correct to say that those ribs flow out into the sound. They don't. They go down into the groundwater.
I will do some more research and get back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Does anybody have a question on engineering? Yes, ma'am.
I have a statement or a question, basically. Mr. Campbell, you just made a statement that has me bothered. Do you have proof of any malfeasance in the disinformation, as you called it, instead of misinformation? Do you have any proof that those people were being intentionally? Because that's pretty incendiary, and I think that opens this board up to a lawsuit if those people come back after you.
Since I don't know which people Ms. Kennedy was talking to, how could I know that?
Well, you changed it from misinformation to disinformation, and you said those people on Facebook were purposefully putting that information out there. So you identified the people on Facebook as wrongfully, it's an incendiary comment. Unless you have proof to back that up, I think I'd retract it.
Okay. If you'd like me to retract disinformation as opposed
No,
to
that-
misinformation,
Yes,
so noted.
just to save this board.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, we're on to member forum. Dr. Peavy, do we need staff?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, so for member forum, I'll call your name. Please name and address at the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. We do care what your thoughts are. And I'll let everybody get out of the way before. So
See you Friday.
Ms. Forrester?
Yes, could you, any of you, help me understand what sunshine rules, if any, you all are under?
Mr. Dunaway, do you want to handle that one?
Yep, thank you. I'd be happy to. The board operates under an open meeting rules, and those rules can be provided to you upon request. With regards, when you say sunshine, you operate in the sunshine, I assume you mean under the public records request under the statute 119, and in that regard, we do not. So that it is a Florida not-for-profit corporation, which operates under Florida statute.
Okay, so you are allowed to have individual side meetings on your own without the rest of the board being present. Is that correct?
Are you inferring that we would have a quorum to be meeting on the side and making decisions?
Yes, I recall that not long ago, there was reported in the newspapers that, I've forgotten if it's 2 people or 3 people met together and made some decisions and sent out an email to members of Holly by the Sea Golf Course, changing it to public, I believe, at that time. And as I understood it, the rest of the board knew nothing about that.
Right.
And I was wondering, how are you able to do that? You should all, I would think, know what's going on all at the same time.
Right.
I can address that issue.
Would you like to? Yes,
sir. So with regards to...
Who's speaking? Oh, you, I'll get back to you, thank you.
So with regards to action of the Holly Navarre Water Board, the board can only act when it is seated and has a quorum. So no actions of the Holly Navarre Water System Board, that is board action, can occur without a forum. So that is what is occurring in this meeting. Now, as you have heard, that there were reports of committees. There are board members who had committees who do meet with staff. And as Director Campbell mentioned to the new board member, if one of the other board members wants to attend a committee meeting, so for instance, if Director Campbell is meeting on the Eglin project, they cannot have meetings unless there is less than a quorum present. Now, to answer your question with regards to that had information regarding the club at Hidden Creek, the club at Hidden Creek is a separate entity from the Holly Navarre Water System Board, and it has its own organizational structure.
So it was not part of this board that made that decision?
The club at Hidden Creek is a separate legal entity from the Holly Navarre Water System Board.
Okay, I do understand that, but what I had read, I had kind of understood that it was part of your board that made that decision to send the email out.
Unable to answer your question because don't know exactly what decision, but if you want, we could answer further questions if you wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I guess I'm another confused person. I'm not entirely understanding that, because it sounded, from what I recall reading in the newspaper, was that a letter went out saying it was now going to be a public course, blah, blah. Members didn't know that, and the rest of the board didn't know that. So I'm trying to understand who did make that decision to send it out.
All right, and again, the decisions of the club at Hidden Creek are made by the entity that is the club at Hidden Creek.
So it was nobody here?
The club at Hidden Creek has 3 board members, 2 of which are board members of the Holly Navarre Water System.
So
one of which is the...
You serve jointly?
Correct.
Okay, and can I just know who those people are?
I'm gonna ask Dr. PV to help out a little bit.
Yes, I think to clarify the misunderstanding that you're talking about, the decision that was made was not made by the board. The board empowered the CEO of this company to make decisions for the benefit of that asset. The decisions were made. The course has always been a public course. It's never been a private course. It has members, but it's certainly a public course. The decisions that were made, there was no email sent out. It was a letter that was sent out in reference to the memberships. But that was a decision that was made by myself and the general manager. I had the authority, and it was clarified in the last 2 board meetings that I took the decision that I had the authority to make.
Okay,
It was
so
not this bo-
it was not a
board members.
requirement that you report back to this board?
I'm sorry?
It was not a requirement that you fill the rest of this board in on it?
The board were informed of the decision after the fact, that's correct.
After the
Because I had
fact.
the authority to make the decision.
Okay, all right. So you are allowed, that's one, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That was one instance then, with that being a separate entity, are you allowed at all to ever meet privately without a quorum? Is that
Yes.
possible?
Yes,
Who's saying yes? I'm sorry.
yes, that's allowed.
Yes.
Someone over here.
This-
Oh, okay, I'm
Yes.
sorry. It's hard for me to follow the voice. Okay, I thought it was down further. Okay, so that is possible, it is allowed. So you could have, say, 2 or 3 people meeting and discussing something about the water board without the rest of the people knowing.
But we cannot make decisions.
That's legal.
That is correct.
And that is legal. But again, I see where you're going, but in the sense though, we have to come together to make the decision as a board. This body is the one, we wound up making the vote. Even if 3 people got together and they tried to make some motion to do something, it would not be binding, I guess is my.
But they can discuss it. They can get together and say, what do you think about such and such? And
Yeah.
then bring it back up to you guys. That's legal. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, you betcha. Mr. Matthews?
My name is Mike Matthews. I live at 2193 Belmead Circle. So the last time I was in here, we were going to sell the golf course. I'm kind of curious what happened with that whole, we had a local guy ready to buy it. We were still going to spray. Kind
Yeah,
of
he
curious
didn't
why
have
we
the
haven't
mon-
sold.
He didn't have the money.
He withdrew.
But he was one of multiple people, right?
Yeah, well, we put out the RFP, or in this case, it was the ITN interested.
Why don't you let Dr. Peavy cover that?
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, we went
Dr.
through the
Beaver.
process, and we evaluated with legal counsel the folks that bid and submitted their bids. And they didn't meet, none of those folks that bid on it met any of the requirements of the ITN. And the board decided at that point to look at other options.
How much money do we lose on the golf course annually?
As of, I can't tell you from last year, I can tell you that to date, they have made a profit.
That's not normal, right? Normally we
Not
lose
normal. That's
quite a
why-
bit of money.
That's why we make the changes that we were authorized to make, is to turn it into a viable asset for the company.
Yeah, because that was my concern, that we were losing tons of money every year, and why would we still have this asset? So that was my question.
That's why the board gave me the authority and hired me from 10,000 miles away, is to come in and run it as a business.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Barnett?
Robert Barnett, 2008 Pine Ranch Drive, Navarre, Florida. My question is, was going to be on transparency, but I think I'm going to change that a little bit. The question I have is, with the latest resignment of 2 positions on the board, and in the bylaws, of course, you know, the board has the ability to replace those positions. And my question is on the process. And because I'm aware of, you know, some individuals that submitted, you know, to be a possibility for the board. And Ms. Caves and the other gentleman that was appointed, this is no direct attack at all. The process that the board has, would you kind of explain that to me, and then I have a question?
In the terms of,
In the terms of application and those type of things.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, verbally, in the meetings, in the past, we've said any candidate anybody that's interested, and we set up a vetting committee.
Right.
So to send your information to the vetting committee.
Right.
And that was the process.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So when you vet those individuals, you're having conversations with them?
I did, yes, sir. Well, I mean, once they had officially been through whether or not the background checks
Right.
and whether or not they're a real member, and yes, sir.
Certainly understand that. Is there an application process on that, that you fill out, or do you require a resume?
No,
No.
Mark, if you.
The bylaws don't say anything about a process that the board needs to go through in order to appoint a member to the vacant seat.
Right.
There's nothing in the bylaws says you have to do it this way.
Right.
What this board decided that we would do is, number one, in order to be eligible to be a board member, you've got to be a member in good standing.
Sure.
So staff has to verify that that person has a water or sewer account in their name.
Certainly.
And that they're a member in good standing in order to be eligible to be a board member. We also, as part of our normal process for candidates to run in our election, they complete a background check.
Right.
And the reasons for that go back to a lot of other reasons, but this board did decide that we would require these candidates that we would consider to appoint onto the board to undergo that background check. So at last month's meeting, we had 3 people interested in the 2 seats, but they had not completed the background check. So there was a motion made to postpone the appointment. We were prepared to appoint at the last meeting, but there was a motion made to postpone that until those candidates could complete that background check.
Right.
And we had a special meeting on June 1st. Yeah, June 1st, strictly to appoint those board member seats once those candidates passed the background check. There were some candidates that expressed interest after that meeting in serving on the board and turned in some paperwork to be considered, but the majority of the board felt like that we had cut that off as of that meeting, and we're in the process of conducting those background checks, and we're only going to consider those three candidates. So for that reason, anyone that was expressed interest after that meeting was not considered.
So after the meeting, was the meeting before the deadline date or not?
The meeting was, again, it was on our agenda last month to appoint board members, but because there had not been the necessary background checks, we motioned at the last meeting to hold a special meeting as soon as those background checks could be completed of those 3 candidates.
Okay. And in the process in that, did you require an application to be filled out with all the information? So an application. Did you also require any type of resume to be submitted?
We didn't require it, but we asked candidates
to
submit either a resume or a bio about themselves, what their qualifications are. That was beneficial to us to know who we're considering.
And that's what I understand, and that's what I hear, that you had asked for a bio, resume, or whatever you want to call it. And did the board, by chance, any member on the board, contact one of the 2 appointees and ask them if they would like to serve?
I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to that. I know I didn't contact anyone directly and ask.
I'm directing this to Mr. Kennedy.
Okay.
No, I mean.
You didn't contact anybody and ask if they'd like to serve on the board, is that correct?
Of these 3 people?
Yes.
Well, I don't know these 2, so, no, sir.
I will say I did contact several people and ask if they were interested in serving on the board.
The vetting committee did.
And most of those people said no. I mean, we had an open position since early this year.
Yeah, we beat the bushes for like 3 months.
We had tons of, every meeting, we said, you know, if you're interested in serving,
From January on.
contact me. I was the vetting committee chair.
Right.
Contact me, submit your information. And we had a couple of people express interest, but then back out. And so it wasn't until our May meeting that we actually had 3 candidates who had expressed interest and sent in information.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I understand that there's one possible appointment that was contacted by the board. And so, you know, kind of a little different treatment than the other candidates. So I hope that's not true, but I won't bring it out here in the meeting as to any names or anything like that, but there will be more investigation into this in the way that you appoint members of the board and the vetting process and so forth. Thank you.
Can I just say that the appointments that were made run through the end of the year? So
That's correct.
They're just through the rest of this year.
I certainly understand that.
And there'll be an election in November, and so anyone that's interested in running for the board for a full term, you know, or a couple of them will be 3-year terms, but then the others will be the remaining balance of the director's term that resigned.
Correct.
If I can ask the gentleman a question, are you saying that you would not expect a board member to reach out to somebody and say, are you interested? And if so, you need to send in an application? Are you saying that that's something that's...
What I'm saying is that a board member, whether they may be a friend or not, you know, may talk to someone about being appointed on the board, you know, and ask that they apply to give them preferential treatment over other individuals that are submitting through the normal process.
No, they all went to the vetting committee.
They all went to the vetting committee. That's the only thing we would do.
The whole board voted.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And if you see have some suggestions where we can do better, please feel free, send us an email. We'll try to incorporate
I
it.
guess to me, the point is, the board could have just picked somebody here and voted that day versus going through the process.
That's right.
We could have.
Yeah.
We could have.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Mr. Ash.
Let me try this. Tom Ash, 7067 Shellfish Court in Navarre. So on June 9th, I actually contacted the water company to request financials because I noticed you guys quit publishing them as of November of last year. And the first lady I talked to hung up on me. So I called back. I got a hold of a supervisor. The supervisor told me I need to request them through your website, Holly Navarre. So I put the request into the website. I want the last 3 990s, your current 1023, and all supporting documents. This is my second request, and I'm making it on public record. So if you guys could get that to me. I heard you say email you directly.
Yes, email me the list with your purpose.
Okay. And then I have a follow-up too, one quick second. So how does the engineering corporation MESI operate? I know that Dr. Peavy is the registered agent and vice president of that company, which is a for-profit. He's also the CEO of a nonprofit that does business with that for-profit. So I want to echo Ms. Gano's concern. I would like a forensic audit performed because I have concerns that it could cost us our tax exempt status with the IRS.
Okay.
So can you guys explain that relationship? How does that work? Do y'all share company vehicles? Do profits go back into the Holly Navarre water system from work performed outside by MESI?
Yes, sir.
I would ask if you have a question or a concern, submit it in writing so it's documented, and then we'll respond with you.
Well, this is being recorded, so it's documented.
But submit it in writing. So
The last thing I submitted, you guys don't
You
even
didn't submit it to
respond.
me. You didn't.
I submitted it to the Holly Navarre water system as directed by your employees. Okay, I will.
Certainly.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Pullman.
Chuck Pullman, Navarre. It's been stated for as long as I can remember, and I don't know how true it is, but the word on the street is that the economic development in Navarre is not where it should be because of the water tap fees and the water board. I personally wanted to open up a business back in 2004, and basically when I came to the process of the water department, it was a strip mall, and they wanted me to pay for each particular, places that I'm going to have in here. If I'm going to have 6 places, then I needed 6 tap fees going in there. I didn't think it was very economical for me because I'm just an individual, and I was only going to rent the first one with the business and then start renting them as we go along and get the tap fees at that particular time. I'm concerned because economic development in this area is not where it should be. I think it should be a lot more than what it is right now. Can you tell me, the board, tell me exactly how the tap fees are figured? Is it figured differently for residentials, figured differently for businesses? Is there a certain math? I mean, is there a website that we go to and look at it and see how much it's going to cost for per business? I get scared when I hear about, and I get concerned when I hear about big businesses wanting to come to this area, and they really are shocked by what the water tap fees are. And some don't come here, and some go other places. Now, I'm not saying it's the board's fault, but it has to start somewhere, and I think it has to stop somewhere. I think it needs to be answered by the board. What's the process? What's the math behind it? Can anybody help me get to that point?
I'm not sure it's an easy.
You want me to take a swing at it?
Yes, sir.
Well, to answer one question, I think everything that I am about to say is explained on the website. There's a section on, I think Holly DeVar's development application is on there. The chart that they use to calculate what your impact fee is on there. So let me try and make this as short as possible. Holly DeVar water system measures water use in a unit called an equivalent residential unit, and it's kind of the accepted standard use for a normal average size residence. It is defined as 300 gallons per day of use. If you want to build a home or develop a business that uses 300 gallons per day, you're going to pay the impact fee for 1 ERU. Currently, those impact fees are $2,250 for water and $4,200 for sewer. So if you're a home, if you come to the front desk or the customer service and say you want to build a home, they're going to ask you how many square feet are inside that home. You will pay an impact fee based on the square footage. And I could not tell you the range of square footage that 1 ERU is, but there's a range for a portion of an ERU and a range for 1 ERU and a range for greater than an ERU. So wherever your square footage of your approved plans fall, that's what you'll pay for a residence. Now, a commercial usage. There's 2 ways that you can have your impact fees calculated as a commercial usage here. One is that you can choose to use the default state of Florida chart that's been adopted that they use for designing septic systems, which is the accepted use for different types of business, and it's broken into 100 different categories. You know, a restaurant is by seat, by bar seat, whether or not you're washing the dishes or whether or not you're serving paper products. It's broken down. So you have that option of just allowing all of our staff to apply that chart. But that's not how most people get charged. If you come in and say you're Publix, we have a Publix that's trying to get developed here in Navarre. They have the option of using that chart, but they also have the option of presenting to all of our water system evidence of their water use in other locations. And generally, it is beneficial to any business to provide that evidence. And quite frankly, Holland of our water system goes out of its way to both perhaps indicate where other similar uses might be in the franchise area or other areas where you could get information. But they do allow you to present evidence of actual use from similar businesses in other locations, whether they be yours or someone else's. And then once both parties agree to what that usage is, you're charged impact fees based on one ERU. So if you're a business that comes in here and you're 10 ERUs, in other words, 3,000 gallons per day, a restaurant maybe, you're going to pay 10 times $2,250 and 10 times $4,200 for that usage.
So let me ask you this, if I was going to build a storage facility, and it's approximately 5,000 square feet, and it has a toilet and a sink, what would be my tap fee at that particular time?
You're asking the wrong guy. I don't calculate them on a daily basis, but I would suggest it would be next to nothing. If you went to one of these other storage facilities and were able to show that the bathroom is in the office that's occupied by one person 12 hours a day and not accessible to the public, I can't imagine that you would pay more than one ERU.
Well, they wouldn't be occupied by anybody, it's just, it would
Well,
have.
it's used during the day, just like
I
a
got you.
business
Yeah.
would be used. So I would think that you would have, again, you would have a huge square footage project, and your impact fee would be very small.
So on an ERU that you're mentioning, I can go on the website and look at that, or is that something?
I believe that everything I just mentioned to you is described in detail. There's a whole section on, it's called the impact fee policy approved by the board of directors, and it will tell you everything I just told you.
It's a 10-page document, and on the Holly Navarre Water System website, it's under Documents. You go to Documents, and then you go to Policies and Guidelines. And under there, it's a 10-page document, Holly Navarre Water System Impact Fee Policy. It was passed in November of 2017.
We're basing it on 300 gallons a day, but we use 185 gallons a day.
Some do, some don't.
That was the
It's just an
average.
accepted average.
The average.
Well, let me explain that further, because, that, on an average daily basis,
Okay.
it's 185 gallons per
Okay.
day. We don't get to give you your average day usage on Memorial Day. We have to design a well and a wastewater treatment plant that will provide what you do on Memorial Day or July 4th, or pick whatever. Some people's max day aren't on a holiday, but generally that's the max day. That's what you're being charged for.
The max.
That's correct. We have to design a system that will give you what you want.
Not usage though, but we're being charged usage. But when you pay out front, you pay for the max.
That is correct. You are reserving,
Capacity on the system.
when you pay an impact fee, you are reserving capacity on this system. You have the right
Agreed.
to take that water, and you have the right to pass that wastewater back to us to be treated.
But there's no benefit for the customer then, when they use less, you've already paid this whopping fee, right?
Again, you are reserving a capacity on the system for your backstop usage.
Mr. Pullman, does that help you?
It does, but I got one last question. If I could,
Quickly.
it's real short, I'll direct it to Mark Miller. How, are we competitive with other areas in our impact fees, our water tap fees? I mean, I've just heard it over and over and over for years, and I've been here a long time, that the water tap fees are outrageous, and the water board's running the businesses away, and they can't come here because of that. Are we competitive with other areas, surrounding areas?
I haven't done a study to find out what PACE charges and other areas charge, but when I did, I was surprised to find out that we're actually fairly well in line with those other systems. And what I would like to see happen is us look for opportunities to fund our infrastructure needs with grant money and things that will offset impact fees, so that we don't have to go up on them, so that they can be maintained at their current level. And if we happen to get a pretty good set of infrastructure money or funding that carries very low interest rates, any opportunities we have to pursue that we'll keep our impact fees as low as we can possibly keep them. The whole point of impact fees is so we don't have to raise rates on current customers to pay for new businesses to come in. You know, it's not fair to have someone who's retired living on a fixed income have their water bills go up to pay for infrastructure demands for new growth.
And I guess we've always had impact fees, water tap fees.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Gano, are you going again?
Yes, I
All
am.
right.
I have an open forum question for
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Not on the agenda. Recently, I saw where the boulevard has been changed from a shopping/entertainment complex to a full-on apartment complex. Something like 332 apartments are now going in over there on the corner adjacent to Publix at the intersection of 87 and 98. Are you all aware of that? Are you all aware of that huge, massive change?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Do you have a plan? You know, what's going to be required of that now large apartment complex? Are they, like Publix, going to be required to maintain their own lift station since they're in that area? What impact does that have on our overall water supply? You know, when does our capacity max out? I mean, we're being overdeveloped here in the south end of the county. Every last lot in the old part of Navarre has a new house on it. And we have massive developments that are going in along the 98 corridor and up 87. So, you know, what influence do you have? First of all, what's your plan for this large complex that's going in, and what impact is that going to have on the overall capacity that we have for water and water treatment? And then when does our capacity max out? And what influence do you have on getting a moratorium on development on the south end of the county? And have you ever been queried, or are you ever queried by the BOCC and their zoning board as to when we are going to reach that capacity and when we need to stop developing? Because when we run out of water, we run out of water. People are going to want to come into this area all the time. The developers are going to get much more money out of a 332-unit apartment complex than they would out of a shopping/entertainment complex. You know, so I'm concerned, and I'd like to see a large influence, a letter from this board to the BOCC and their zoning board that says, we got to stop. You know, changing over from a shopping complex to a large apartment complex is stupidity on this end of the county. And I'd like to see some influence from this board to get that stopped.
Thank you, ma'am.
So could I get answers to those questions?
Again, can you, if you want to send an email, because that's a long list of questions and then we'll be here for a while. So an email and.
Well, the first one is, you know, you guys have a plan?
Yes.
You do have a plan
Yes.
to address that large apartment complex?
Yes, they're in.
Initially, what do you see as the impact on our water capacity, both the going in and the coming out? And then I'll send the rest of the questions in, but I'd like to get an answer at least to that much.
Phil?
Generally speaking, the only improvements required to Holland Bar's infrastructure to serve them is what they are required to do internal to their own project. They are making, internal to their own project, they are making some increased line sizes, some loops that connect into Holland Bar system. And we don't have final plans, I believe, from them, so I'm only speaking to what has been generally discussed. I think generally, your number with regard to the apartments is kind of what I've heard. The apartments don't consume the entire acreage, though, from the last plan that I saw. The apartments, whatever I say here will be wrong, so take it with a grain of salt, but I would say they consume perhaps 50–60% of the acreage. The last plan I saw still has out parcels for other development surrounding the multifamily. I have seen layouts that have more multifamily than what I believe is the current plan. I've seen with less, but it is multifamily.
The one that I saw was probably 98% multifamily and 2% because it was one little bitty rectangle down in the very southwest corner of it. And on that little rectangle was a clubhouse and a store. The rest was all apartments. And that's the plan I saw. So I'd like to see some heavy-handed influence from this board. You control our water. You all know, and I've already gone and fought, because you know it, Mr. Kennedy, with the BOCC over them trying to change the safety boundaries on our well fields. At some point, we run out of water on the south end of the county.
Gotcha.
And we're done.
Yes, ma'am. We actually.
So you guys need to put in some pretty heavy-handed influence over the BOCC and their zoning board on the development that's going on in the area that you supply water. Thank you very much.
I want to address the capacity issue, and there's two capacities. One is effluent disposal and the other is water supply. The effluent disposal capacity issue is being solved by the Eglin Rib project, which is going to give us capacity for years.
And we won't be like Milton.
Right. And the majority of our water comes from Fairpoint Regional Utility, which they are adding new wells as needed so that we don't get into a capacity problem, so that we are able to supply water to individuals that want to move here, businesses that want to come here. It's our duty to try to supply that. So that most of that comes through Fairpoint, and they are aware of the needs, not just of us, but Midway and Gulf Breeze and Navarre Beach, and they are working to expand their capacity as needed.
And that's why, Mr. Matthews, we're not worried about it. They've got the calculations defined.
Well, I'm with her with the fact that we don't need 300 more apartments on the south end.
I disagree.
Why don't we incentivize for these businesses to come here? I'm with Chuck. This is,
I disagree. If you talk to anybody who's looking for a rental right now, they cannot find a rental. The housing market, I put a house on the market, got 19 offers on it from people that wanted to buy that house. There needs to be some more.
If they don't fit here, then they go somewhere.
Well, but there is a demand for people that want a rental. I searched for a rental. You couldn't find a house for under $2,000 a month in Navarre.
That's what that is from.
Yeah, so I mean, it's.
I understand, but I agree with him. At some point, you've got to tell people that we're done.
We have a court reporter who tries to take down accurately a record of it. So it's helpful if we're only one person talking at a time. So.
And we hear you. Again, Ms. Gano, just send us the questions that you have so that we can address them.
One quick one. Have you ever been contacted by the BOCC or the zoning board asking you if we're anywhere near capacity?
I mean, no, ma'am. No, I don't.
So.
Well, maybe I should be careful. I'm not sure that's
I want to clarify with Phil, because when you talked about the master plan and 30,000 build-out units, that took all available land down this side. Is that in our franchise?
Yes, that's all.
So that's all calculated in the master plan that we would be able to support, right?
Yes.
Okay, from that side. I'm not getting into the BOC building.
I mean, that's what you're charged with, is you have a franchise to provide water and sewer service, and that's what you're charged with doing, is providing that service to this entire area as it develops.
Right. And that's the master plan
That's the
we're working
master
off of and also calculating off of.
And
So
what was the number in that again? I'm sorry? What's the maxed out number in that master plan?
30,000 units.
30,000 units, that's
connections.
homes, that's homes, businesses, and
Connections.
apartments.
Connections.
Okay, so that's 30,000 total, thank you.
thank you.
What year?
Are we halfway there?
There are 17,000.
17,386.
Well, there you go, 386. I think that was the number as of
Halfway.
when they closed the books last month.
Yes,
So
sir.
we're talking about almost doubling. In what year will that reach 30,000?
If you could tell us that, we would be way better prognosticator than any of us.
Surprised you don't have that.
We try and.
All right, moving on. Thank you. Good points. Wes, sorry. So,
Yeah, my name is Wes Seiler. I live at 2000 Costa Verde. And I had a couple things. So the first thing is just looking at the meeting agenda, and this is my second time coming. I love the first thing that you guys do with the employee recognition. And if I understand the purpose of it, is you're bringing up people who are doing just amazing work, right? That are just doing awesome stuff, and you're celebrating them in front of the public, right? In front of the camera, and you're saying, hey, this guy, he's doing great work. He's working, I think you said, days and nights, and whenever we need him on call, that stuff. And you celebrate him publicly. And so that to me is amazing. I love doing that too, in my past and in my career. But then you get to the finance, and it's just, this is how it feels, right? Maybe this isn't the intention, but it feels like there's a switch. Because when people ask questions, there's all this good information that comes out, like, hey, we're turning a profit over there, with the golf course. That's really good information to know. And we talked about the website, where you go on the website and the finance just stops. Whenever you hit November, those statements disappear. And so on the one hand, we're celebrating this good work. There's talk of good work happening financially, but we don't see that. And the experience of sitting here in the audience is, well, on these screens that you can't see from in the back, there's some numbers that you can't make out, and then they're going to the next slide. You guys are holding on to financial statements that we can't see. And then I hear about the emails, and hey, we got to email the CEO. That's crazy to me. Is if you're doing good work financially, if you've got nothing to hide, if you're turning a profit, then put that out front. I don't know of a single organization I've ever heard of where you have to email the CEO to be able to get basic information, specifically when the structure already exists. Again, you can go on the website. We were just talking about transparency and the policies for impact fees, et cetera. It's right there. Just post the PDF file. So I'm just trying to understand why it's run this way, while on the one hand, we know how to celebrate good people, we know how to publish good work, we know how to be able to talk about the things that we're doing well, but then we get to the finances, it makes it look like you have something to hide. And if you don't, then let us see it. So why? Why is that the way it's run?
Are you just on the board, or?
Whoever has an answer for this question.
Right, I mean, the finances that you're talking about
Yeah.
there, the monthly finances, we're gonna be updating those.
So you're going to put those on the website?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good, okay, that's what I want to see, because you get how it looks. I'm like, all right, so let me try to understand this. I can see 2020, I can see 2019, I can see 2018, and then as soon as the new board took over,
No,
it disappears. It's opaque.
There's a little bit of a lapse there. We apologize for that.
Okay, so it's just an oversight, it's something that you're going to fix. Okay, what are we looking at that fix? Because it doesn't seem like it would be that difficult.
Right. I mean, I don't want to give you a time frame, but I will just probably,
I'd like to hear a time frame.
Yeah, I would too.
by the end of before the next meeting.
Okay, great, that's what I wanted to know.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
will just assume if that's acceptable to the CEO.
That's certainly acceptable.
Good, that's what I need, thank you.
We certainly, but let me just make this point, that if you think, or you have something in mind that, or any of the crowd thinks that we're doing something wrong, you have something specific, let us know.
Right.
Because we have nothing to hide.
If I can't see the finances, I can't do that, right? If I can't see how, the specifics, the line items of how things are being prioritized, how money is being spent, that I'm paying, that people that live in Navarre are paying, how in the world can I give you feedback on what you're doing if I don't know? Right, so when you answer this question and you provide those statements, we'll have the ability to give you feedback much more accurately and precisely, right? Cool. Okay, thank you.
And we have asked
you about the messy relationship. That's the concern I have. I want to know how a nonprofit feeds money to a for-profit that shares an office, where you're the registered agent, the CEO of this water board, and I worry we're going to lose our IRS tax exempt status.
And if I were to tell you not to worry, would that work for you?
No, I just want you to tell me how the relationship works, but instead you deflect, and you tell me to send it in an email. It's a simple question.
Right.
So, no answer, huh?
We just did. Submit your question, I'll be glad to respond.
Exactly.
I mean-
That's the transparency, Mr.
Is that not transparent? You said I would respond.
Yeah.
Submit it in an email.
Yeah. And it also protects us too, because we have your question as an email that we can respond to.
May I make a suggestion? Because he raised a question that I've had concern for a number of years. Some of the other people have raised some questions of concern, and so have I. And we've all been directed to send those to the CEO. Can there be a tab added to the webpage to where when questions are addressed to the CEO, that he can answer those questions and be transparent to the whole membership so that I can see the answer to his question and he can see the answer to my question? Because he's only going to respond to me and he's only going to respond to him, but I still have concerns about what he asked and he has concerns about what I asked, so that answer isn't going to go out to everybody. It's only going to go out to the person asking the question. So can we get the answers posted out on a tab on the website, so when these questions are raised, the answers are there and transparent for the whole membership? Just a suggestion.
Great. Good suggestion. Thank you, Ms. Gano. Ms. Reynolds?
Carlin Reynolds, Navarre. I was just thinking about what Ms. Gano said, and it seems to me like we're here on our time, like you all are here performing public service, asking questions, trying to dispel confusion, where I'm here to get some resolution on my concerns. I expect that you all can answer those now. I don't want to have to go back tomorrow after I've already documented this and send a separate redundant email. This is not the way it should be working, so I'll leave you with that. I, last month, asked for an extension of the speaking time from 3 minutes to 4 minutes. Have you all made a decision on that yet?
No, ma'am, it was not added to the agenda, so therefore.
I don't think we've had a clock on anybody tonight. So
Okay,
you've answered part of your
that's good, but last month, we were getting queued at 1 minute, 30 seconds, and it was very distracting. I will re-ask some of the questions I asked last month without resolution. Again, I was contacted about the lift station at Navarre High School. What is going on with that we have personnel repeatedly down there? Is it going to be rectified anytime soon, or there's odors and that type thing? Do we know what that situation is?
Well, I believe, again, you're asking a specific issue on a maintenance question, so.
Where's the operations manager?
Again, ma'am, I mean, if you want details on maintenance stuff, send an email.
But this is a repeat question from last month.
Yeah, really.
We didn't receive any question or comment.
She made it live last month.
If you have it, we asked you to submit it so that we have it.
Well, I was here last month asking that question.
Did you, in that time, we asked you to submit to me?
No, you did not have me do the redundant thing, which was not only come to the meeting and ask the question, but send an email. So should we send the emails prior to the meeting? Would that help?
That could be helpful.
Well, I mean, we would need staff time to look at this stuff, Ms. Mayor.
Okay, you've had a month.
I mean, but we as board members don't know what's going on with the an individual maintenance
Or a
item
lift station,
on a
number
pump or a lift
23.
station. We're not into that kind of detail. We hire our CEO to manage that, and he's got managers of each department that take care of those things and report back to him.
Right.
So it's not, I don't think it's actually appropriate to ask that to a board of directors, what happened with this pump on, because we don't know. We don't
You've got to be kidding me. The CEO's here. Okay, all right, next thing.
Yeah, we
last
the answer
month-
to your question, so submit it and you'll get an answer.
Last month, I asked, you all substantiated the 6.9% member rate increase in January on the back of equipment, inventory, and maintenance. And I asked that the members be read in on how the rate increase is going to help with that. What is the inventory? What is the recurring maintenance cycle? How do we resolve that? So that we understand why you actually increased the rates.
You mean besides the fact they hadn't gone up in 5 or 6 years to keep rate and inflation? I mean,
The last rate increase was 2016, where you all increased the rates by 17.5%.
Previous board did, that's
The
correct.
previous board did, yes.
They had no rate increase before as well. So the 6.2, I believe it was 6.2%.
It was 6.9.
No, it was not 6.9.
6.2, I stand corrected.
Right. So that, again, was to handle our CIP projects and the cost of living. So, you know, you've been around long enough, you know that we've got pipes that need to be adjusted and everything like that.
And we're wanting to know the particulars of that, and that's the nature of my question. When you come to us and do a rate increase without preparation or any pre-announcement, and we're hit cold in January with a 1.5% COLA increase for all the employees, and then other stuff on the budget that needed to be taken off of there, it's incumbent on us just to watch the money. We're the members, we deserve that courtesy. Also, you talked about grants. Is there any in-resident grant experience on the staff?
Yes. Earlier, finance. In fact, you gentlemen sat in the meeting with the state in Northwest Florida last Wednesday, and we went through that very program. And then the very next day, we did it again, spent an hour and a half going through those very same programs with the state again.
So you're saying the finance director is grant qualified?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because Defeniak Springs just got a huge grant to bring in new development, which will bring in more jobs and that type thing. So we are anxiously anticipating the announcement of the next grant submission. Finally, I have two more questions. The newly instituted board policy for background checks for the board members, how much is that going to cost on the bottom line annually?
It's not new. Every board member, when we run for the board, we've always had to get background checks. So every board member at least Mark's been here longer, but all of us have to get a background check, and
Well, that was discussed last month at the meeting, and you all were asking the question whether it was mandatory. You deferred to to the attorney's stand-in attorney, who said he thought it was mandatory in the statutes. I haven't been able to find that.
it's board appointments versus board election, right? When you guys are electing your board members, you want to make sure that they follow, we do have a policy, an actual procedure to make sure that when we go through elections, you got to do this, got to go get the 25 signatures, you got to do all of these steps, including the background check. And we were just confirming that if we're going to do board appointments, we should also follow those same processes.
Okay.
In the bylaws, ma'am, we can appoint anybody we want to, just off the street. But we thought to be prudent, we ought to go through the same procedures that we do to screen candidates for, who to go before the people to be elected.
And how much does a background check cost the water system, us?
Like $19 maybe?
25 bucks.
25 bucks plus.
Okay. There's a new concern. Ms. Gano talked about the water supply and that type thing. There's a new concern now because Whiting Field, the Navy, has all of these outlying landing fields, 9 of which are distributed throughout Santa Rosa County. They're concerned now because nationwide near these military facilities, because of the use of firefighting foam, diesel, petroleum products, etc., that they are getting into private water wells, and the letters are going out to residents to check their private water wells. The Navy will help with the testing. Well, there's a larger issue with that. I, as part of the Watershed Protection Committee, contacted them, and they did not return calls on 2 occasions. And finally, I contacted the liaison for Whiting Field and Santa Rosa County and asked him why they're not responding, and also were they aware that there are 15 water systems in the county that supply water through their public wells. Well, they were not aware of that, so I asked them to please contact Dr. Peavy on behalf of Fairpoint and the South End and the respective water systems that are part of that. We don't know what the results are going to be. Did they in fact contact you, Dr. Peavy?
They did.
Fantastic. But prior to that time, they were not aware of the 15 water systems that service the public. So this is why people like me come and ask the questions and try to make sure these issues are being coordinated with the proper agencies. Had that phone call not happened, I don't know that the water systems would be contacted because the letters went out to private landowners.
Yes, sir.
In 2000, we were aware of this type of situation back in 2014 for Holly Navarre. Our wells were tested twice in the year 2014. 2017, Fairpoint had their wells tested. After discussion with the Navy and prior to that, we'd already planned to have all the wells at Fairpoint and Holly Navarre tested again. So we made sure that we tested to ensure that we don't have an issue with that.
So they're going to be retested then?
Absolutely.
That's great.
FPAS and FPAS, correct?
I'm sorry?
The constituents is, go ahead.
PFOS and PFOA.
That's correct, the forever chemicals. All right, and finally, the last question is, in some discussion, I got confused, and Dr. Peavy referred to, it was a question that I think Ms. Kennedy had about, a letter that went out, and Dr. Peavy, you said you and the general manager coordinated that. Are you speaking of the general manager at the club at Hidden Creek?
That's correct.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Carmen. All right, anybody else? Thank you again. Good comments. We always take them, ma'am. Anything from the board? All right, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make the motion to adjourn.
All right.